Alright, I'm going to talk about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. I saw this back in November when it first came out, and a few things to say about it. One, I like this better than Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Actually, Half-Blood Prince was the only book that I did read, and I felt like I didn't feel like that a lot. They didn't really adapt Half-Blood Prince that good. There was a lot more going on in that book than what the movie showed. I don't know if they made a director's cut, but I hope they did. But uh, Deathly Hallows Part 1 was actually pretty good as far as story-wise goes. Most people complain that it was just them running around everywhere, but I didn't read the book, but from what I understand, that's pretty much what happened in like the first half of the book was them running around looking for Horcruxes. One of the things that I noticed in the film was like the actor that played Ron Weasley is actually getting really good as an actor. Like I could see him out of the three to be the one that becomes like one of the most popular actors down the road. But nevertheless, I like to see the character conflicts that was going on in it. But mostly, what I'm going to touch on in this review is basically countering all the complaints that this movie got, saying that they didn't. People are like it's too short or it ended in a cliffhanger. If you bought the movie ticket and hadn't noticed or actually thought this was it, it's called Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, which means there is a Part 2, which means like it was too long for them to release all at one time. Somehow nobody noticed that. I did, because it's called Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. But whatever. Um, Initially, I didn't like Harry Potter when it first came out. To be honest, it wasn't until Prisoner of Azkaban that I really started to take it seriously, and that I've been watching. I've watched all the movies up until this point, and only read one book, but I plan on reading the rest of them one day. I can honestly say that this was a really good installment. I like the acting. How I like how comparing and contrasting the other films up until this point, how the three main actors have grown not only into their roles but into their craft, where you can it's not just kids playing these roles, like you actually believe them. Like the storyline is pretty much good. It's capping off everything, and it ended with Voldemort getting the Elder Wand, which is going to be interesting to see what happens next. Which again is going to lead up to this massive movie season this summer, which might be the biggest summer movie season that we've seen in like almost a decade and a half. And that's pretty much it. I didn't hate this movie. I felt like it could have been more action sequences, could have been more magic. That's my biggest beef with the Harry Potter series. Is like they talk about how much magic, and you don't really see that much magic going on up until like the later films, which Order of the Phoenix was my favorite one because you actually see wizard combat, which is pretty cool. But this one was pretty decent. Also, like the conflict between Harry, Hermione, and Ron, where Ron actually thinks Harry's going to steer Hermione away from him. Which there's a scene in there which kind of insinuated that that could have happened, but it didn't. But anyway, nevertheless, I re- I enjoyed it. I recommend it. If you saw Harry Potter, you've been along for the ride up until this point. I mean, it's 2 hours. It can't get boring at times because it deals with more dialogue and explaining the plot more than anything else. But for what it's worth, I mean, this is the first half of a massive two-parter, and this was like 2.5 hours long. I don't know if you're gonna sit in a theater for 5 or 6 hours to see the whole thing. So whatever. I see it as the calm before the storm. I think that the second part is gonna be really good, and I recommend it. If you haven't seen it, go rent it. If you're a diehard Harry Potter fan, you gotta have it. Go ahead and buy it. So it's really good. Can't wait for part two. And I'm sorry this interview wasn't more in depth, but I'm mostly going on memory. But that's about it. So that's it. I highly recommend this one.